Hello, in this video you're going to learn how to create a backup company file. Once you've completed all of your work, or it's actually good practice to do it on a regular basis. So depending on where you're working, your company will determine how often you should create a backup. Some people create one every day. Some people create one twice a day, depending on how much work you're doing in the system. What you want to think about is how much work do you actually want to lose, or can you afford to lose? So let's say, for instance, that there's a problem with your file on Tuesday, and that the last time you made a backup was Friday. How much work did you do on Monday and Tuesday to that file that will be lost? So depending on the amount of work that's done in QuickBooks will determine how often you create a backup file. A backup file is a process that you go through that takes the data from your company and stores it in a way so that you could recover that file, that data, that information, should something happen to your regular working copy that you work on every day. So it's not that things happen often, but it's like an insurance policy that if you have it, then if something does happen, then you have a way to restore your work without having to redo or re-input everything that you've done to date. So from your home screen, you would click on File, and then you would choose Create Backup. QuickBooks has created a very simple process for us to use. So it says to make a backup copy of everything that you need to recreate your company file in case of accidental loss or damage. And that's the purpose that we're creating a backup. So you got a couple of options. You could save it online. Intuit, who owns QuickBooks, has an online place where they can store backups. So if you didn't want to store it on a USB or in a company file, you could choose that. Or you could choose local backup, which is what we're going to use. It saves it to a removable storage device, so we're going to save it on a USB. And then we click Next. So then we tell QuickBooks where to save this particular file. So I'm going to save it on my USB. So I click my USB, then click OK. So we can add the date and time of the backup to the file, which is recommended because we want to know if we have to restore it. We want to know from what point the data is good. I can limit the number of backup copies in my folder. I'm going to limit it just to one so that it will override the one that's there each time. So I only will keep the most recent one each time. So I can choose some other options here. Complete the verification, which is recommended. There are quicker ways to do it, but I'm going to use the recommended settings. I can choose to have QuickBooks remind me to back up when I close my company file every 4 times. So if I've determined that I want to create a backup every week, then likely what I'm going to do is open QuickBooks in the morning, close it at the end of the day. So perhaps every 5 times that I close my company is when I want to create a backup. So I can put in a reminder. So then I'll click OK. And it says, when do you want to save your backup? I can save it now. I can save it later. I can schedule a future backup. Or I could choose only scheduled. So I'm going to save it now. It tells you if you're saving it to a USB, make sure your USB is in the system. I'm going to click Next. And so it gives me the file name, and it shows me my files on my USB. And I'm just going to click Save at this point. Oh, this is from the last report that I created, so I'm just going to say no. QuickBooks needed me to close that report before it could create the backup. And it's working, it's backing up the data. So remember, QuickBooks is a program that has a lot of information in it, information that is specific to your company. So when it creates a backup, it takes from this very, very large program only the data part of it that is specific to your company and creates a backup. So you get a message when it's done. It saved a backup onto the USB, and the extension is QBB, and we learned that earlier. Stands for QuickBooks Backup. You click on OK, and then I can just close that report. Oh, and my invoice window is open. See, everything that I've been working on is still open. All right, so my backup is created. The one thing that you want to know about backups, you create them. You can't just open them like you do with a regular working file. So you can't open QuickBooks and then choose that file and open it. You have to, from the main screen in QuickBooks, you have to choose to restore a backup. So let me see if I can get that open again and show you that process. I'm just going to show you what you would do from your opening screen. So if it's a backup, you can open or restore an existing company, right? So you would choose restore a backup. You would then go and find the backup that you want to restore. QuickBooks then takes all of those files, populates all of the proper screens and so on, and restores that backup so you can continue to work from there. And that's how you would create and then restore a company file. Usually you will make your backups, but it's pretty rare that you're going to need to use them. You will continue to work in your working copy until and if there's ever a problem with that file. It's good practice to have a backup, but hopefully you'll never need to use it.